Hey there, Angry Faithful. I just wanted to drop in, bend your ear a little bit, get your attention. So if you're not listening, drop what you're doing and pay attention to me because I'm here to inform you that not only can you get your daily, maybe if you're binging it, I'm not sure, that's entirely up to you, but you can multiply your doses of angry me fuckery by paying attention to all of the platforms upon which you can find either the dulcet tones of my voice and David's voice or my pretty face and David's not so pretty face. Anyways, digressing, we not only on we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Rumble, we're on Google, Apple Podcast. We have a TikTok page. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and of course Facebook. So if you find yourself fuckery deprived, curl up with a nice hot mug of shut the fuck up and just listen. Open those ear holes and be prepared to be cream pied like it's the first time. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Yeah, we're going live on this. I figured out a couple of new little Nick Tech stuff to do. Let me go ahead because we can also go live on Facebook, but I'm going to set everything up. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Fuck yeah. I don't have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Johnny's over here playing with his new technology because
I forgot I can use my phone.
The iOS beta program for Apple. I got the new Mac OS, and I can use my iPhone as a camera. It's awesome.
Yeah. Forgot I had something's going on with Facebook. Where it automatically, because I usually have my stuff to go dark.
Right.
Well, what ended up happening was everything every time I do like a photo or something like that, I ended up what do you call it? It would go back to the regular style. So I ended up changing the password.
Yeah.
So I did that. It still didn't work. So I think it's just there we go. I think it's just a mess up on the program for right now. All right, this is stupid of me. Do how do you spell psycho?
Is it crap?
PSCHYO
or YCO? You realize that now people are seeing the depth and the width of our
Oh, I totally get that. They know how much how
ineptitude. My name's Jeff.
Psychos and sociopaths.
I'm a potato.
Psychos and sociopaths. There we go. I'll just do it that way. Yeah, I have to Google search shit because my intelligence is not there.
And I am also because, my days are filled with packing and cleaning and going back and forth from here to the new house. Getting closer, everybody. We're getting so close. All right. You want me to go ahead and start off and read?
Yeah, go ahead and start doing that stuff.
Okay. April 20th, 1999. Let's set the scene here. School shooting and attempted bombing occurred at Columbine High School in Columbine, Colorado. The shooters, the perpetrators, as it were, 12th grade students. They were seniors, Eric Harris and Dylan Kelbold. Klebold. Yeah, let's just say that. Excuse me, murdered 12 students and one teacher. 10 of those students were killed in the library where Harris and Klebold subsequently committed suicide. Now, 21 additional people were injured by gunshots, and gunfire was also exchanged with the police. Now, another 3 people were injured trying to escape, and at that time, it was the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history. It has the dubious distinction of being the route that dozens of copycat killings um, took after. It's called the Columbine effect, including many deadlier shootings across the world. Now, the word Columbine has become synonymous for school shootings. Now, the two shooters rather, had intended for the attack to be primarily a bombing and secondarily a shooting. Now, the homemade devices, the IEDs that they had put together, failed to detonate, and it forced them into shooting up the school. 2 bombs were set up as diversions at another location away from the school, one of which partially detonated. Now, the motive remains inconclusive, and if I remember correctly, it was because they were being they felt that they were being bullied and things of that nature. They were kind of outsiders. But they had planned the attack for at least a year and hoped to have a large number of victims. Now, the police were slow to enter the school and were heavily criticized for not intervening and during the shooting. Now, and that seems to be the prevailing complaint for every shooting since then. More recently, the Uvalde shooting, but now the incident resulted in the introduction of the AIRD tactic. Now, what that is, it's immediate action, rapid deployment. Now, the tactic, which is used in active shooter situations, Columbine also resulted in an increased emphasis on school security with zero tolerance policies being put into place. Debates and moral panic were sparked all over the American gun culture and gun control laws. Anytime we have a shooting, whether they seem to be legitimate or whether they seem to be staged by one special interest group or another, yes, I went down that road. Don't at me. It just kind of the panic that kind of washes over the law-abiding gun owner crowd is that okay, now they're going to come for my guns, and I'm included in that. It's like every time somebody reports a shooting somewhere, you can almost bet dollars to donuts that within 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to hear one Democrat politician or another, whether, regardless of what their ranking is in the hierarchy, talking about stricter gun control laws, banning guns altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not the solution. Instead of going after law-abiding people, we need to go after black markets. We need to go after, street sales, things of that nature. But I guess America is not ready for that TED Talk as a whole.
Yeah, and it's also we need more tactics for.
The police departments. Now, one of the conversations that I had with a friend of mine who's also a law enforcement official, we had discussed the fact that school resource officers are employed by the police department, and he referred to them as cosplay cops. There are people who join the police force specifically for the sole purpose of getting school duties because it's a quote unquote cake job. They can cruise, they can ride out their 20 till retirement, and they don't really have to do any kind of actual police work. I know that here in the county where I live, that you can get a certification as a peace officer and you can apply with the school district as a security officer. So you're employed by the school district. So that, that may be one method of relieving the strain on police departments, because, part of the slow response time that a lot of departments have is the fact that they don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
Without pulling away from other other precincts, without pulling away from other beats.
Well, it's also
Because
that
a lot of times, I mean, unless you get to like the larger police departments, like Los Angeles, Dallas, things of that nature, where they've got a specialized ARD team or a SWAT team, a lot of times those smaller departments or sheriff's offices, those SWAT teams are comprised of regular patrol officers who have to come in off of their beat to gear up for a SWAT mission. So
yeah,
that
there's
may be
some
something
towns
that can be looked at.
there
Yeah.
is a town in North Carolina, I think it is. One of the Carolinas. I'm pretty sure it was North Carolina. The police force just quit. It
Yeah,
was
I
a
think
small
I
town.
remember hearing that. Yeah.
It was
But
a small town and everything like that.
yeah.
But let's go
Now,
ahead and
yeah, so in addition to the gun control laws and everything like that, it forced Americans to look at high school cliques, subcultures, i.e. like the goths, the stoners, the tweakers, the jocks, the rednecks, things like that. And really kind of forced a spotlight specifically on school bullying, as well as teenage use of antidepressants, the internet. They want to throw violence and video games on that as kind of like the tip of the spear, and that's kind of a stickman argument.
well,
Violent movies, things of that nature.
I actually got the butt in of that bullshit right after it happened. Only
Mhm.
because in our high school we were known as the trench coat mafia, and I'll tell you a reason why people call us the trench coat mafia. One, we
You
all
wear
wore
trench
trench
coats.
coats. Two, the reason why we watched trench coat is because at that time frame we all watched Highlander, the TV show, and guess what he wore? A
Hmm.
trench coat. That's the whole reason. And then one of the guys that we knew and at that time frame, we would just go. This is one of the time frame when I was in the Air Force. Buddy of mine just started in the Navy. Uh, we were going through our stuff and everything. Luckily, I got my stuff where I didn't have to get uh, my secret clearance and everything like that, so I can do my job.
Hmm.
And what had ended up happening is this stupid, we're at the 30. Yeah. Well, this stupid fuck decided to make a newsletter of saying, I was like, oh yeah, David Dickerman's part of the Trenchcoat Mafia Abilene chapter, and total newsletter. And all of us that was in the military, we ended up taking leave that weekend. And I talked to my first sergeant in the FBI and OSS, no, OSI about all this bullshit. And they're like, is this something? I was like, can I get anonymity on this bullshit? Because I just don't want you to know something. He's like, go ahead. At the time I was underage. I was like, dude, all we do is drink and fucking just play video games all night. That's us. That's all. What kind of video? It came to that point. It's like, what kind of video games? I'm like, oh, we play Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, sir. And my first sergeant was like, I'm telling you this right now. He's not being bullied. He has a mouth on him, but he's a good guy. I don't hear anything from him, of course. And my stupid ass was like, well, sir, sometimes you just don't know a person, and it's evidence of what happened with this. It's like, dude, shut up. You're not fucking making your case go through good.
Yeah, and see
Shutting
the
up, sir.
thing, it was the same thing.
We had the FBI on our Kenny will tell you that he had a FBI van outside of his house for like probably about 2 to 3 weeks, thinking we were going to do something fucked up.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, where I was at with the 101st. I mean, you would see memos coming down from division that it was like, okay, if you know anybody who's part of an extremist group, blah blah blah, and it had all popped up around that time where they were basically like CID. Yeah, I've got no love lost with CID, trust me. But they were looking for anything and everything.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's like what they're
the
doing.
the problem with CID, CID, they're part-time cops. and they're even more part-time soldiers. And I mean, you could all, I mean, anytime anytime any of us had dealings with CID, we'd always be like, when's the last time your boots saw the field, you know? And it's just, it's crap. But it, it's the knee-jerk reaction, and it's second nature almost, where you look at reasons to point the finger at somebody just so that way you can feel like you're doing your part of the due diligence, kind of a thing. And it's bad, man. It really is. And we're all guilty of it. And you know, I mean, whether you're on one side of the prism or the other, you know, and it's like anytime there's a mass shooting, like I said, it's just like you're just waiting for the first Democrat to come up and talk about banning guns again. And you know, I mean, so that's a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, okay, there was a shooting. What's the over-under on the first banning guns comment from a Democrat, you know? And it just, like I said, everybody's guilty of it. But instead of the knee-jerk reactions, you know, we need to figure out ways to not necessarily take guns out of the hands of legal gun owners, but or even, I mean, yeah, we need to address some kind of, you know, gun control as it relates to the illegal sales of weapons, but not not what the media would have us believe that it's supposed to be, you know. And it's like, okay, the war on drugs, okay, we didn't fare that one very well. We actually kind of lost that one.
Well, it's also the basic fact that nobody wants to do. Okay, they want to take away the easy way out instead of the hard way out of dealing with mental instability. That's the whole deal.
Yeah, and that's I was struggling to get over the speed bump. Yeah,
and we can go on and on about this, and we'll deal with that on Sunday. This is the reason why I'm doing it now. And Sunday, what we do with we are going to tackle this topic on Sunday.
Like, I ain't tackling a cop. You kidding me?
But
I'm not catching a charge for you, David. I'm sorry.
We're going to tackle this topic on Sunday with Tobu. We're going to go out to the range. We're going to have some fun up there. Johnny's going to still be stuck in Houston while we go have aromatherapy. But let's get this case and everything like that. Now, the two people that actually did this was Eric Harris and Dylan
Klebold.
It's
Klebold.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, so with Eric Harris, he was born April 9th of 81. He was born in Wichita, Kansas. His family relocated often because his dad was an Air Force transport pilot. So his dad flew C-130s, most likely. His mom was a homemaker. They moved from their home in Plattsburgh, New York, to Littleton, Colorado in July of 93, where his father, when his father retired from military service. Now, the Harris family lived in rented accommodations for the first 3 years that they lived in the Littleton area. Now, during this time, he attended Ken Carroll Middle School, and Harris met Klebold in 96. Now, the Harris family purchased a home south of Columbine High School, and his older brother attended college at the University of Colorado Boulder. Do you want to do Klebold?
Dylan Klebold was born in Lakewood, Colorado. His parents were pacifists and attended the Lutheran church where with the children. Both Dylan and his other brother, Brandon, attending confirmation classes in cadence with the Lutheran tradition. As had been the case with his older brother, Klebold was named after a renowned poet. In his case, the playwright Dylan Thomas. At the family home, the Klebold's also observed some rituals in keeping with Klebold's maternal grandfather's Jewish heritage. Klebold attended Normal Elementary in Littleton, Colorado, for the first 2 grades before transferring to Governor's Ranch Elementary and became part of the CHIPS, the Challenge High Intelligent potential students program. Now, on the
Go ahead.
criminal history on this, in 1996, 15-year-old Eric Harris created a private website on AOL. Ooh, that brings us back. American Online, the old dial-up. I mean, you probably still find those discs and shoot them and use them as
Target practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he set up basically. He set up basically like servers for games like Doom, 2, Quake, all first person shooters. It.
Okay.
In of itself, the fact that the guy was intelligent enough back then to set up something like that before that service really existed. Hey, he should have gotten a pat on the back and been encouraged. But as David is fixing to elaborate, it eventually led into other things.
Yeah. It was initially to host levels Harris created for use of first-person shooter Doom and Quake. On the site, Harris began a blog to include details about Harris sneaking out of the house to cause mischief and vandalism, such as lighting fireworks with his friend Dylan Keibolt and others. Beginning in the 1997, the blog post began to show the first signs of Harris' anger against society. By the end of the year, the site contained instructions on how to make explosives. Harris' site attached few visitors and caused no concern until August 1997. Harris ended a blog post detailing murderous fantasies with all I want to do is kill and injure as many of you as I can, especially a few people like Brooks Brown, a classmate of his. After Brown's parents viewed the site, they contacted the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office on August 7th, 1997. An investigator wrote a draft affiliated to request a search warrant for Harris' household, but it was never submitted to the judge. So that was, and I hate to say this, in a lot of these mass shooting cases, nothing against the law or anything like that. We love our blue brothers and our red, white, and blue brothers. But in most of these cases, even dealing with mass shootings or any kind of serial killers that we go on this show, it ends up that people's been talking, and I don't know if that's the right terminology, but people have been talking. There we go. Better words. People have been talking about the instability of these people, and because of the law and how it's the red tape that you have to go through, it didn't act in time. It was the same instance with 9/11. We had all the information and everything, but no one could connect all the dots because of all the red tape going through different departments. But on January 30th, 1998, Harris and Keibolt were arrested for breaking into a white van parked nearby Littleton and stealing tools and computer equipment. They would subsequently attend a joint court hearing where they pleaded guilty for felony theft. The judge sentenced them to juvenile detention program. As a result, both delinquents attended mandatory classes such as anger management, and talked with diversity officers. Sorry. Several weeks in the program on and put on probation. And in their writing, shortly after the court hearing for the band break-in, God, I'm talking too fast. I need to slow it down a little bit. Sorry, folks. Harris revisited his website back to just hosting user-created levels of Doom. He began to write his thoughts down on journals instead. In both of these journals, Harris and Cobalt would later plot the attack. Soon after beginning his journal, Harris typed out one plan of attack, which included after the massacre, possibly escaping to a foreign country or hijacking an aircraft. Jesus Christ! Could you imagine that? I was like, hey, we're gonna.
How you boys feel about Mexico?
We're going to Mexico, everybody.
No, but he was talking about crashing that plane into New York City. So
He was doing something early, so
yeah.
He had a prophecy all around. That's so fucking dark. Kelball had already been keeping a personal. You know what's really sad, and my thought is because one of them is Jewish and everything like that. It's like, well, you beat the fucking you would have beat the Muslims to it. Yeah, I went there. My mind is hateful at times and weird. We all know this. Kelball had Harris also made entries and topics such as his sexuality in his journal, where he described the desire for sex with women, and especially his desire of raping and torturing them in the bedroom. Harris also expressed interest in cannibalism and stated that he would like to dismember a woman whom he had sex with. So, Jesus,
Yeah.
Harris and Cabal also used their schoolwork to foreshadow the massacre. They both displayed themes of violence in their creative writing projects. In December 1997, Harris wrote a paper on school shootings titled "Gun in School," and a poem from a perspective of the bullet. Cabalt wrote a short story about a man killing students, which worried his teacher so much that she alerted his parents. Both. This is what's really sad about this whole thing is it. From looking at all the evidence now, they had a lot of foreshadowing, but like I said, because of the red tape, they couldn't do anything. They had foreshadowed, they had the evidence, and because they hadn't, there's a difference between planning a crime and doing the crime. Most cops will tell you that, sadly enough, they can't do anything until after the fact.
Yeah.
And that's any kind of law enforcement, which we'll talk to Tansy about it. Both had also actively researched war and murder. For one project, Harris wrote a paper on the Nazis, and Cobalt wrote a paper on Charles Manson. In a psychological class, Harrison wrote he dreamed of going on a shooting spree with Cobalt. Harris' journal describes several experimental bomb detonations. Near a year before the massacre, Cobalt wrote a message in Harris' 1998 yearbook, killing enemies, blowing up stuff, killing cops. My wrath for January's incident will be godlike, not to mention our revenge in the Commons.
Yeah, Commons is
was
what a lot of people refer to the Commons as the cafeteria.
Yeah. All right, bud.
Okay.
Let me see if. Hold on.
Okay, this is the part where it gets funny.
You go ahead and do what you do.
Okay. So Harris and Kleinbolt were both enrolled in video production classes. They kept 5 videotapes that were recorded with school video equipment. Now, only 2 of these, Hitman for Hire and Rampart Range, were part of a third known as Radioactive Clothing, have been released. Now, the remaining 3 tapes detail their plans and reasons for the massacre, including the ways that they hid their weapons and deceived their parents. Most of these were shot in the Harris family basement, and thus known as the basement tapes. Now, 30 minutes before the attack, they made a final video saying goodbye and apologizing to their friends and families. In December of 99, nobody else had seen them. Or before anybody else had seen them, Time Magazine published an article on these tapes. Victims' families member to, in fact, their families threatened to sue Jefferson County. As a result, the select victims' families and journalists were allowed to see them, and they were then kept from the public indefinitely for fear of inspiring future massacres. Now, the tapes have since been destroyed, and there are only transcripts of some of the dialogue and a short clip recorded by one of the victims' fathers.
Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can do this. Here's one of the tapes.
Two girls sitting next to you, they probably want you to shut the fuck up too.
Yeah, that's coming through really, really disjointed and broken.
Well, that's actually the audio.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, it's very choppy on that, folks. Sorry about that. I saw that and I had a idea of what we could do with this, but that's the audio with that. Sorry if it's choppy, but
yeah. Now later on, they had to make an ad for a business in their economics class. Now they made the video called Hitman for Hire on December 8th of 98, which was released in February of 2004. Now it depicts them as part of the Trenchcoat Mafia. It was a clique in high school. They all wore black trench coats, go figure, extorting money for protecting preps from bullies. Now, they weren't part of the Trenchcoat Mafia, but they were friends with some of its members. Now, they did wear trench coats on the day of the massacre, and the video seemed kind of like a dress rehearsal showing them walking the halls of the school and shooting bullies outside with fake guns. Now, on October 23rd, 1st of 03, a video was released showing the pair doing target practice in the foothills known as Rampart Range, which is one of the tapes that were released with the weapons that they was used. Now, there is a tape out there called the Nixon tape. Now, before the massacre, Harris left a microcassette labeled Nixon on the kitchen table. And on it, he said, it's less than nine hours now, placing the recording at some time during around 2:30 a.m. He went on to say, people will die because of me, and it will be a day that will be remembered forever. Now, this is the part that I kind of raised my eyebrows, and I'm like, really? They pulled it off with that. So the guns that they used, two 9mm firearms, two 12-gauge shotguns. Now, Harris had purchased a High Point 995 carbine. Think about that, folks. A High Point.
No wonder nobody likes High Points.
Well, I mean, it's just a wonder that he got off as many shots as he did. He bought 13 10-round magazines and a Savage Springfield 67H pump action shotgun. Now, Klebold used a 9mm Interatech Tech 9 semi-auto handgun with one 52 and one 32 and one 28-round magazine. Most likely the drum magazines. Stevens had a 311 Delta double-barrel shotgun. Harris's shotgun was sawed off to around 26 inches, and Klebold shortened his shotgun length 26 inches. That's a felony under the NFA. The National Firearms Act, for those of you keeping score at home. November 22nd of 98, their friend Robin Anderson purchased the carbine rifle and two shotguns for the pair at the Tanner Gun Show. As they were too young to legally purchase the guns themselves after the attack, she told investigators that she had believed the pair wanted the items for target shooting and that she had no prior knowledge of their plans. Now, she was not charged. What she should have been charged with, though, is what was it called?
I think
stick sale.
I think,
or a stickman sale or something like that.
Yeah,
straw man sale. That's what it is. So she should have, at the very least, been charged with that because she wasn't related to either one of them. She was a friend or something to that effect.
Yeah,
but she hadn't. I mean, she should have been charged under that by itself. because that's just something you can't do. Like if I were to purchase an AR-15 or build one, I could give it to my son, but I'm the one that it's legally registered to until he comes of legal age, when I can give him a bill of sale. That, and he can buy it from me, and we can do it through the legal route, do the paperwork necessary. But or if you're going to take your son or daughter hunting, like with a rifle or shotgun, you're the one who has to legally own that weapon. Now they have to go through the hunter safety courses and everything like that in case a game warden comes up and they've got all the legal paperwork. But as far as the
Unless you're
person,
military now.
do what now?
You're right, but unless you're like prior service, then
Well, I'm talking about as far as the minor is concerned.
yeah.
Yeah. So, it's she should have been charged under that alone. Now, Harris and Klebold both held part-time jobs at the local Blackjack Pizzeria, but through Philip Duran, a co-worker, Klebold bought a Tech 9 handgun from Mark Maines for $500 at another gun show on January 23rd. Now, Maines and Maine's girlfriend and Duran are all in the Rampart Range video. After the massacre, Maines and Duran were both prosecuted. Each was charged with supplying a handgun to a minor in possession of a sawed-off shotgun. Now, Maines and Duran were sentenced to a total of 6 years and 4.5 years in prison, respectively. So good, they handled that properly, but they should have gone after Robin Anderson. So, but now, in addition to the firearms, the complex and highly planned attack involved IEDs, or improvised explosive devices. Now, Harris and Klebold constructed a total of 99 bombs. Think about that. They included pipe bombs, carbon dioxide cartridges filled with gunpowder called crickets, Molotov cocktails, and propane tanks converted to bombs. Now, the propane bombs were used in the cafeteria, in their cars, and in another location as a diversion. Now, for ignition, they used storm matches, cannon fuses, and model rocket igniters, as well as timing devices built from mechanical alarm clocks for the propane bombs. Now, during the massacre, they carried match strikers taped to their forearms for easy ignition of the pipe bombs and CO2 bombs. Now, Harris also experimented with napalm and envisioned a kind of a backpack and flamethrower. They both attempted to get another friend and coworker, Chris Morris, who was part of the Trenchcoat Mafia, to keep the napalm at his house, but he refused. Good on him. Harris also tried to recruit him to be a third shooter, but would play it off as a joke when he was rebuked. So, hindsight being 2020, Mr. Morris should have gone forward. Now, the Harris's website contains instructions on making pipe bombs and Molotovs using the extensive use of shrapnel. Now, Harris's father once discovered one of his pipe bombs. Harris's journal logged the creation of 25 pipe bombs. Now, I want to know, well, if your dad found one, what did he do about it? Now, Klebold scared his coworkers by once bringing a pipe bomb into work. They would give various nicknames to their pipe bombs. After the massacre, 2 pipe bombs had been left in Klebold's bedroom, one named Vengeance and another Atlanta, presumably after the Atlantic Park bombing. They had in their possession 8 propane tanks, all converted into bombs. The weekend before the shooting, Harris and Klebold bought 2 propane tanks and other supplies from a hardware store. They bought 6 propane tanks on the morning of the attack. Harris was caught on a Texaco gas station security camera around 9:12 a.m. that morning buying a Blue Rhino propane tank. Both cafeteria bombs included a single 20-pound tank attached to pipe bombs and supporting gasoline canisters alongside. Both car bombs were made from 2 20-pound propane tanks, pipe bombs, and various containers filled with gasoline, and were spread throughout vehicles. 8 pipe bombs were placed in Klebold's car and 1 in Harris's. Harris and Klebold were both equipped with knives, but investigators do not believe that they ever utilized them during the massacre. Harris had a boot knife on his belt and a Khyber pass, machete, Bowie knife, taped to the back of his ankle. Both had an R referencing Harris's alias REB or Reb etched into the handle, and the machete had a swastika on the sheath. Klebold had a cobra knife mounted on his belt on the left side, as well as a switchblade in his right pocket. Now, as far as the massacre was concerned, according to the shooter's respective journals and videotapes, it's believed that by investigators that the pair had intended to detonate their propane bombs in the cafeteria at the busiest lunch hour, killing hundreds of students. After this, they would shoot and stab survivors as well as lob bombs. Bombs set in their cars in the parking lot would also eventually detonate, killing more students as well as possibly any police officers, paramedics, firemen, or reporters who had come to the school. However, this failed to occur since the bombs in the cafeteria and cars failed to detonate. Several official sources claim that they planned to shoot the fleeing survivors from the parking lot, but moved to the staircase on the hill at the west side of the school when the bombs failed. Other sources claimed to the top of the staircase where the massacre began was their preferred spot to wait for the bombs to go off all along. A total of 188 rounds of ammunition were fired by both perpetrators during the shooting, firing nearly twice as much as Klebold. Harris fired his carbine rifle a total of 96 times, 47 shots outside and 36 inside, 13 shots in the library. Harris also discharged his shotgun 25 times, 21 times in the library and 4 inside. Bible fired the Tech-9 55 times, 3 shots outside, 31 inside, and 21 in the library. Klebold also fired 12 rounds from his double-barrel shotgun, twice outside, 4 times inside, and 6 in the library. Law enforcement officials fired 141 rounds during exchanges of gunfire with them. Now, on the planning of the bombs on Tuesday morning, April 20th of 99, Harris and Klebold placed 2 duffel bags in the cafeteria. Each bag contained propane bombs set to detonate during the A lunch shift, which began at 11:15. No witnesses recalled seeing the duffel bags being added to the 400 or so backpacks that were already in the cafeteria. The security staff at CHS did not observe the bags being placed in the cafeteria, and a custodian was replacing the school's security videotape around 11:14. Shortly after the massacre, police speculated that the bombs were placed during this tape change. They also investigated whether the bombs were placed during the after-prom party held the weekend prior. And some of the internet sleuths claim that the bomb placement can be seen on the surveillance video around 10:58. Harris and Klebold are seen in the tapes planting the bombs in casual school clothes separately. Jefferson County Sheriff's Deputy Neil Gardner was assigned to the high school as a full-time school resource officer. Gardner usually ate lunch with the students in the cafeteria, but on April 20th, he was eating lunch in his patrol car at the northwest corner of the campus, watching students in the smoker's pit in Clement Park, a meadow adjacent to the school. 2 backpacks were filled with pipe bombs, aerosol canisters, and small propane bombs were also placed in a field about 3 miles south of Columbine High School and 2 miles south of the fire station. The bombs were intended as a diversion to draw firefighters and emergency personnel away from the school. Only the pipe bombs and one of the aerosol canisters detonated, causing a small fire, which was quickly extinguished by the fire department. It went off after first having been moved. Bomb technicians immediately examined the bombs and relayed to police at the school the possibility of devices with motion activators. Harris and Klebold changed clothes and returned separately to Columbine High School. Harris parked his vehicle in the junior student parking lot, and Klebold parked in the adjoining senior parking lot. School cafeteria was their primary bomb target. The cafeteria had a long outside window wall of ground level doors and was just north of the senior parking lot. The school was located above the cafeteria in the second story of the window wall. Each car contained bombs. As Harris pulled into the parking lot, he encountered classmate Brooks Brown, with whom he had recently patched up a long-standing series of disputes. Now, according to Brown, who was smoking a cigarette, he was surprised to see Harris, whom he'd noted that had been absent from a class test. Brown confronted Harris about missing the test, and Harris seemed unconcerned, commenting, "It doesn't matter anymore." Harris went on, "Brooks, I like you now. Get out of here. Go home." Brown, feeling uneasy and already prepared to skip his next class, walked down South Pierce Street.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene? You remember that scene from what was it?
Billy Madison?
Yeah. I'm so glad I called
I'm so glad I called him. Yeah. Meanwhile, Harris and Klebold armed themselves using straps and webbing to conceal weapons beneath their trench coats. They lugged bags containing bombs and ammunition. Harris had concealed a shotgun in one of the bags. Beneath the trench coats, Harris wore a military bandolier and a white T-shirt with the inscription "Natural Selection" in black letters. Klebold wore a black T-shirt with "Wrath" in red letters. Cafeteria bombs failed to detonate, and had those explosives detonated as intended, they would have killed or severely wounded the 488 students in the cafeteria and damaged the school structure, collapsing the library into the cafeteria.
All right, I'll get this one.
All right.
But still, that is. I'm so happy that it didn't. I mean, it's still bad, but it's one of those things that it could have been like the world's worst fucking thing happening. I mean, it still was the worst thing that could happen, but it could have been a lot worse. At 11:19 a.m., 17-year-old Rachel Scott and her friend Richard Castaldo. Is that it? Castaldo. We're having lunch sitting into the grass next to the west entrance of the school. Cobalt threw a pipe bomb towards the parking lot. The bomb only partially detonated, causing it to give off smoke. Castaldo, how do you pronounce that? Castaldo.
Richard Castaldo. Yeah.
Though it was no more than a cruel single, thinking it was only a crude senior prank. Likewise, several students during the incident first thought they were watching a prank. A witness reported hearing "Go" before Keibolt and Harris pulled their guns from beneath their trench coats and began shooting. Scott was killed instantly when she was hit 4 times with rounds fired from Harris' carbine. One shot was into the left temple. Castaldo was shot 8 times in the chest, arm, abdomen by both. Harris and Calbolt. Sorry. Get my nasal spray. That didn't sound good. He fell unconscious to the ground and was left paralyzed below the chest. After firing twice, Calbolt Tech 9 jammed, and he was forced to temporarily cease shooting to fix it, which he did by reloading a new clip magazine into the pistol. Meanwhile, Harris took off his trench coat and aimed his carbine down the west staircase in the direction of 3 students, Danielle Rothberg, Sean Graves, and Lance Kirkland. Oh man, I took like several allergy medicines and it's still freaking.
You want me to jump in?
No. I got it.
Okay.
William Dennis Sanders, a teacher and coach at the school, was in the cafeteria when he heard gunfire and began warning students. Harris turned west and fired 7 shots in the direction of 5 students sitting on the grassy hillside adjacent to the steps opposite the west entrance of the school. Michael Johnson was hit in the face, leg, and arm, but ran and escaped. Mark Taylor was shot in the chest, arm, and leg and fell to the ground, where he faked being dead. The other 3 escaped uninjured. Kelbolt walked down the steps towards the cafeteria. His first shot, once the body of Dan Rothberg was with a shotgun, and he came up with Lance Kirkland, who was already wounded and lying on the ground, weakly calling for help. Cobb was "Sure, I'll help you." Then shot Kirkland in the jaw with his shotgun. Although narrowly fatally injured, that's
brutal.
Yeah. Kirkland would survive, and he still fucking survived.
Yeah.
Jesus. Graves, paralyzed beneath the waist, had crawled into a doorway of the cafeteria west entrance and collapsed. He rubbed his blood on his face and played dead. After shooting Kirkland, Kelbo walked towards the cafeteria door. He then stepped over the injured Graves and to enter the cafeteria. Graves remember Cabell saying, "Sorry, dude." Jesus. Fucking psychos.
Mm.
Kelboat only briefly entered the cafeteria and did not shoot at several people still inside. Officials speculate that Kaibolt went to check the propane bombs. Harris was still on top of the stairs, shooting severely wounded, partially paralyzed 17 Aunt Marie God, Hochschiller.
Let me see here. I passed you.
Hold on, I'll do the speaking space. Hochschiller.
Hochhalter. It looks like Hochhalter. Yeah.
As she tried to flee, Kelbolt came out of the cafeteria and went back up the stairs to join Harris. They each shot once at students standing close to the soccer field, but did not hit anyone. They walked towards the west entrance, throwing pipe bombs in several directions, including onto the roof. Only a few of these pipe bombs detonated. Witness heard one of them say, "This is what we always wanted to do. This is awesome." Jeez. Meanwhile, art teacher Patty Nelson was inside the school. She noticed the commons and walked in towards the west entrance with Sergeant Brian Anderson. Nelson had intended to walk outside to tell the two students knock it off, thinking they were either filming a video or pulling a student prank. As Anderson opened the first set of double doors, the gunman shot out the window, injuring him with flying glass. Nelson was hit in the shoulder with shrapnel. Anderson and Nelson ran back down the hall into the library, and Nelson alerted the students inside to the danger, telling them to get underneath the desk and keep silent. She dialed 911, head underneath under the library's administration counter. Anderson fell to the door, bleeding from his injuries, then hid inside the magazine room adjacent to the library. God, could you imagine that? This is literally I mean, throughout this whole thing, they thought it was a prank.
Yeah.
And nowadays, if something like this happened, they would know what was going on and plan adjacently. That's what a lot of people are actually in talks right now. I mean, what was it? I think North Carolina, again, mentioning them again, they are literally giving AR-15s to the administration.
Yeah, Houston bought guns for their schools too.
Yeah. That's the way our world is getting, which is really sad. I mean, back in our day,
well,
we used to have like
what's even sadder than that is like back in the 50s and 60s, well, like 40s and 50s, gun safety was taught in the schools.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to give Russia props, they still teach their kids in their schools basic marksmanship and gun safety. There are Russian kids who could break down an AK-47 better than most grown-ass men.
Yeah.
And they can do it blindfolded.
But
now, granted, that's a different culture, but you didn't see or hear or even find out about mass school shootings or mass shootings in general while we taught that in schools.
Yeah.
So it's a different day, different age, man. And I think at the root of it, the heart of it, it a lot of it boils down to parenting and what we allow our kids access to. I mean, you can say, "Oh, violent video games, this, violent video games, that, violent movies, and rap, blah." Instead of sticking your kid in front of a screen for hours on end, why don't you parent? Why don't you be an active part of their lives? Get them outside, get them playing, doing something active. Go hunting, go to a range and learn how to respect the piece of machinery that is in front of you. Guns don't kill people. Bad people kill people. And I know that's cliche. I know it's a bumper sticker. It's a platitude. It's whatever. But it's true. It's accurate. It's 100%. It all boils down to the parenting. It all boils down to the family model. And you could even so much as you could not necessarily point the finger at, but you can glance in the direction of the fact that the social engineering that is taking place in the political theater has caused the breakdown of the family model. There's not a father, there's not a mother at home. There's single parents, there's divorces, there's, you know, oh, you're pregnant, I'm out the door, you know, and it's because this has become a generational, you know, a systemic generational issue where we've got families not being whole. And you know, it's like, oh, well, you can be open-minded. Well, you can also be so open-minded that your brain falls out.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I allow my kids to play those games, but I put time limits on them. And I'm in the room with them when they're playing it, or, you know, I'm explaining to them the realities of those types of actions. And I'm reinforcing the fact that, yes, that is a fantasy. This is fictional versus nonfiction, which is happening in the real world. We get them out from behind those screens. We take them to the beach, or we take them to the ballpark, or we, you know, get them outside and we teach them the virtue of good, honest, hard work. Like, you know, get out here and help me mow the grass, or get out here and help me, you know, weed the garden, things of that nature. Get out and throw a ball around. And I think that parents over the years have gotten lazier, and it's reflecting in the idea in the reality that we're seeing. We're seeing more mass shootings. We're seeing more of an entitled mentality. We're seeing, you know, more of the intolerant tolerance crowd. And, you know, I know that sounds weird, but it's like the people espousing tolerance are the most intolerant of everybody.
Yeah.
And I know that it seems like we've kind of gotten off onto this huge tangent. We're off into the weeds a little bit, but to kind of bring it back around, you know, when, I mean, like with 17-year-old Casey Rusegger, she was shot which passed completely through her right shoulder and also grazing her neck and severing a major artery. She started gasping in pain, and Harris looked out over her and said, "Quit your bitching." You know, and it's I mean, when you get people, I mean, we're talking about like when they're in the library. I mean, it's just like their point of view. They're looking at this almost through the haze of, we've been, you know, this is what we think is normal. You know, this is something that we're just bringing to life. They know that the kind of damage that they're inflicting, they're seeing. You know what I mean? Because when you know that when a bullet hits somebody, you don't see just like a puff of smoke. You see red mist, or sometimes even chunks of meat fly off of your target. You see a physical human being or a physical target being affected by the damage that round does. And it's not because that gun looked at that person or was aimed at that person and decided, oh, I'm going to randomly go off 143 times. You pulled that trigger 143 times. And it doesn't matter what type of weapon you're using. You know, whether it's a 9mm, your bottom, the fact it blows my mind that they paid as much for that high point as they did, but nonetheless, whether it be a high point or your Ruger Glock, it doesn't matter. Whether it's an AR-15, which is, AR does not stand for assault rifle. For those of you keeping track at home, it stands for what? Armalite. Look it up. Okay. Now I blasted myself, but blasted, is that a word? What is now? Screw it. So these guys, these two dudes have created this reality. Nobody did anything about it. And the people that did try to do something about it, when it got to the legal steps, they fell through the crack, or it wasn't taken seriously.
They were just barred from all the red tape that they had to deal with. I mean,
yeah, you know, and it's like, okay,
there really has to be some kind of easier way of, you know, maybe maybe just bring these people around and is like, hey, separate them and do an investigation first. I mean, you could pull somebody off and for the first, what was it, 48 hours, I think it is, that you
Mhm.
can keep a person and, do an
I think
investigation.
it's 24 hours. You can hold somebody for
24
24 hours
hours,
without charging
48
them.
hours. It might be 48 hours now, or it's 24 hours. We can talk
Yeah,
to
no, I think it's 24 hours without charging somebody. But
if anything, we can talk to Tansy about it.
yeah, now we have to be careful here because you can talk about vetting somebody, you can talk about investigating somebody, and then then you start creeping into that territory that the new buzzword is the red flag, right?
Yeah.
You get these red flag laws. The problem with the red flag laws is the fact that anybody could point the authorities in somebody. Like you and I could talk about target practice at the range. We can talk about returning fire with well aimed fire. We could talk about different scenarios based on our military experience. Somebody could hear that and they could call the authorities on and say, "Hey, these two guys were talking about returning fire." Well, that allows us to fall under the red flag law, and they can come in and confiscate all of our weapons with no due process, just based on the word of somebody else.
Yeah. It's one of those things is a catch 22. The good idea is talk to the people, see how
You remember that
what their
saying?
mindset
You remember that
on.
saying is great initiative, piss poor execution.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it's like the same thing to where like New York and California, to where you have to go to either the police department or the deputies of that area, and you have to talk to them saying, "Hey, I'm trying to give you a good reason why I want a, uh, a concealed carry or a carry permit." Or even in New York, you have to have a permit to have a gun in your own home
Mm-hmm.
and to purchase a gun. And in places like Chicago, you have to have a freaking license to buy ammo. I had a guy that came from Chicago and he was like, I was like, well, where do we go to get our license to purchase ammo? I was like, purchase what? Ammo. Let's just go to the store and I'll show you some
Yeah.
magic trick. I grabbed the ammo. He's like, you don't even have to show a card or everything for the ammo. I was like, where are you from? Chicago. Makes sense, but what the hell, dude? Really? It freaking just my whole head just went, what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as Cynthia was telling me that about
Yeah.
having to get a license to purchase ammo. I'm like, what the fuck is our freedom? But anyways, we'll get back to our stuff and
Yeah. I mean, at the end of all of this, I mean, we could go into depth
we'll
about.
we'll go into depths on Sunday. That's the whole.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the particulars on Sunday, but I mean, as far as are we going to take the Alex Jones route and say it didn't happen? No, I'm not going to say that. I mean, because obviously this happened, and it's a tragedy, and it's due to the work of two individuals who should have had legal intervention way before. Now, I think they cheated families out of the process, out of the relief of due justice or due process. But at the same time, I think they saved the taxpayers a couple $100,000.
Probably
At
$2 million.
12:08 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably closer to that. After leaving the library, Harrison Klebold entered the science area where they caused a fire in an empty storage closet. It was extinguished by a teacher who had hidden it in an adjacent room. Now, the gunman then proceeded towards the south hallway where they shot into an empty science room. At 11:44 a.m., they were captured on the school security cameras.
Where are you at?
All the way down.
I'm at 11:22.
I'm at 12:08.
Yeah.
I'm moving past the library, and it's not that I'm trying to. It's not that I'm passing over the victims in the library, because I'm not trying to say that they're not worth talking about. Is the fact that
all of it was kind of a horrible, horrible thing.
yeah, it was horrible, and I'm not. I'm not trying to breathe life back into the actions of these two individuals by reciting the atrocities that they committed. Now, specifically, the target rich environment that the library served to be. Now, the recording shows Harris crouching against the rail on the staircase and firing towards the propane bombs left in the cafeteria. Now, in an unsuccessful attempt to detonate them, as Klebold approached the propane bomb and examined it, Harris took a drink from one of the cups left behind. Klebold lit a Molotov cocktail and threw it at the propane bomb, and about a minute later, the gallon of fuel attached to the bomb ignited, causing a fire that was extinguished by the fire sprinklers a few minutes later. Now, they left the cafeteria at 11:46. Now, after leaving the cafeteria, they returned to the main north and south hallways of the school and fired several shots into the walls and ceilings as students and teachers hid in the rooms. Now, they walked through the south hallway into the main office before returning to the north hallway. At 11:56, they returned to the cafeteria and briefly entered the school kitchen. They returned up the staircase and into the south hallway at 12 p.m. They re-entered the library, which was empty of survivors except for the unconscious Patrick Ireland and the injured Lisa Krutz. And once inside at 12:02, the police were shot at again through the library windows and returned fire. Nobody was injured in the exchange, but by 12:05, all gunfire from the school had ceased. By 12:08, both gunmen had killed themselves. Harris sat down with his back to a bookshelf and fired his shotgun through the roof of his mouth. And Klebold went down on his knees and shot himself in the left temple with his Tec-9. An article by the Rocky Mountain News stated that Patty Nielsen overheard them shout 1, 2, 3 in unison just before a loud boom. Nielsen later said that she had never spoken with either one of the writers of the article. So that's to me, that journalist should have probably lost their job, because that's misinformation at its finest right there, just for the sheer sake of embellishment, right?
Yeah.
Or call it artistic license, whatever. Artistic license doesn't apply when you're reporting actual news.
Yeah.
And in 2002, the National Choir,
things that you should have like just non-biased through the whole thing.
right? Now, in 2002, the National Choir published the two post-mortem photos of Harris and Klebold in the library. Klebold's gun was underneath his body and was so unseen in the photo, leading to speculation that Harris shot Klebold before killing himself. However, some of Klebold's blood was on Harris's legs. Also, just before shooting himself, Klebold lit a Molotov cocktail on a nearby table, underneath where Patrick Ireland was laying, which caused the tabletop to momentarily catch fire. Underneath the scorched film of material was a piece of Harris's brain matter, suggesting Harris had shot himself by this point. Now we can get into the SWAT responses, Leawood Elementary, the boy in the window, one bleeding to death. We can get into the different radio calls and breakdowns of the timeline. I think we can do that a little bit more in depth on Sunday when we've got the subject matter expert, on the show with us.
Oh, no. Sunday's just going to be, we're talking about like gun rights and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, we can break down this timeline later. Because I think, we probably, to me, I would say at the very least.
Actually, we can call it on this one and everything.
Yeah, we can. We can. But for my own personal curiosity, for my own, I don't know, cause it's going to bother me. I want to look at the timeline the way that it broke down, and I want to try to get as much of a picture as I possibly can. So.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just, if anything else, for the furthering of my own education on this, but
because this is one of the things that happened, and I didn't go in depth into it until like a couple of days ago when I started doing the research.
Yeah.
Which on this and I just wanted to try out the whole live stuff and see how it runs and everything. See if we want to do more of it, because Tansy actually told me another site that. He said it works a little bit better. This reason why they didn't use Zoom, because it looked kind of crappy. But
and I wanted to check this. Honestly, I wanted to see if this new camera app on the new Mac iOS
this is more or less a test run and everything like that. If anything, again, next week we'll do this as part one, and we'll do part two. But what's really strange, because he the whole reason why I got a hold with Tansy and everything like that was because on I think it's called the Night Shift one. They were talking about I was listening to the Acid King, and he was talking. It's the whole reason why I wanted to do the Columbine High is because I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, we haven't done that one yet, and that was kind of a really messed up one, and it was a couple of psychopaths and everything like that. But it was also the thing is Kybolt's mother does TED Talks. Could you fucking imagine that? Just hey, I'm a and
Well, if anything, she would probably be one of the people that are more qualified to do TED Talks
no,
because,
no, think about it. Okay.
wait, or is she defending her son?
No, think about it this way. Uh, is going into talks of hey, and this is the word of Tansy, and it makes sense in a way, is hey, this is how I was a shitty parent and everything like that. I mean, you could take it at that, but he says he doesn't even want to listen to this shit, and I totally agree with him on that.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
like,
I get it, and I'm not curious to see, but you would almost think that she's like, "Hey, learn from my mistakes," kind of a TED Talk.
I hope so. I'm not going to listen to it, but it's one of those things. It's kind of a open ended
Is
thing.
it one of those?
No.
This could have been done better in an email, kind of a thing.
Yeah, no. It's like this. Okay. My brother-in-law Kenny. We were about to go out. He wanted to finish he was watching Titanic and he's watching the whole thing. It was at that scene to where they're doing the camera angles on the boat and the iceberg and everything like that. And he was literally on the edge of his seat.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, really? The boat sinks. Spoiler alert. Well, I didn't do spoiler alert because we didn't do spoiler alert back then. I was like, spoiler alert, the boat sinks. It's in the history books.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his mind just goes bloom. It's like one of those things is you see it and you go up and going, oh, maybe I should watch. Who's this? And you look at it, it's like, oh, she's a shitty parent. I don't need to go look at this TED Talk. I already know. It's like you don't really need to know because you've already seen the whole fucking thing of why she's a shitty parent.
Yeah.
I mean, you go like, you can't do like, hey, maybe I should take steps, see what she did wrong, take steps. No, you don't. All you have to do is treat your kid right. Make sure you know what's going on in his life. If anything, and this is what my parents did, they hung out with my friends. And they found out if anything, Jason, guy in one of my best friends from high school, even to this day, he says, he's like, I'm so glad that your dad took the time of saying, hey, stay over at my our place. You're gonna have a sleepover during the week. We'll take you to school because your dad had a hard day, and we all know your dad. He's a little bit aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what that means back in that day. So stay over here. My dad probably prevented a fucking kid from going to be a shit pump later in
Yeah.
life. And that's how it was. I mean, there's some people that could have done that and gone up and said it's like if your kid came to me while you're in Houston and everything. He's like, hey, I need a place to stay. There's a couch. There's a bed. I don't
Yeah.
care. I know you.
You know what I find funny about
you
TED Talks, though? I think it's the most misapplied or misused term, because we're always talking about like, I mean, it's always done in a sarcastic tone. It's like when somebody's made an obvious scientific discovery, it's like, oh, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's technology, entertainment, design, right? And I'm just sitting there going, huh, okay.
What is it?
Technology, entertainment, and design.
See, I was going to ask you to see if it was like that. It was like an abbreviation or something like that. And
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's it's a conference. I think they still go on like
yeah,
yearly.
they go on all the time.
Yeah. So
I've actually watched a lot of them. I watched Dan Cummings doing one about
yeah,
cycles. I watched
yeah, but it's like
this one general from Sweden, how he
you
said
know,
it's like my artistic
well, it's
thing.
like yeah, I get bad gas after I eat Mexican food, but I guess we're not. I guess we're not ready to we're not. I guess we're not ready to talk about how bad you stink it up when you're in there shitting in the bathroom without the fan or without the fan on. But I guess you're not ready for that TED talk. It's like
Yeah, it's
people.
kind of a
It's
joke,
just
but
so misused. I know it's. I thought it was kind of funny.
but
We
it's
got to eject a little bit of nerd into every bit of every show.
you know, right. But we'll do a part 2, and I'll label this part 1. Because this and after this one, what I want to do is I want to do the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you been to that memorial up there?
No.
Oh, dude, I went. It's very, very solemn. They've got chairs, like child-sized chairs, where the nursery was.
Oh. Ugh.
Yeah, and they've got a chair for every victim
Mm.
that died in the bombing.
That was another shit bag. Shit.
Yeah, Timothy
fucker.
McVeigh.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used the gas chamber on him, though, didn't we? I think we did.
Yeah. I'll look at it.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I'm gonna let's see. Damn, it's almost 7 o'clock. I don't know what I'm gonna do the rest of the night. Honestly.
Well, there's a thing on Netflix with Jamie Foxx is a comedy about a vampire hunter. Because
yeah.
after I watched that when
day job or no, it was a day shift.
Day shift, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
I think I might check that out.
You know what's funny is like after I was like I watched the trailer and anything. You know what I ended up watching? I haven't seen forever.
What's that?
John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh wow, yeah. I even thought about that in a minute. Oh hey, I know that my mother-in-law she listens to these shows every once in a while. If you listen to this one, Mama, happy anniversary.
Yeah, dude, they've
been married for 44 years. Yeah. Yeah, she was the one that requested about a month ago. She requested a PG rated show. So yeah,
but no,
and we were doing such a good job.
It was G.
So Colin, it was a
didn't cuss.
No, we didn't cuss. So we'll just say it. Yeah, we'll just say it was a G rated show.
It might have been PG because
it was PG, but we jumped right over into the far end of PG-13.
They do a lot of adult jokes in G-rated movies.
They do, but we ventured way off into almost PG-13 area when Colin dropped his joke about refrigerators.
No, because he didn't cuss. And G-rated, you could actually do that joke. That's what's really
right up until the very end when I was just like, damn.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was like,
you did.
Oh, so we were doing so good until Colin sent it right off on the rails, or right off the rails. But well, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for this week. I'm Johnny Skelton.
I'm David Dickerman.
And until next week, have fun, be good, or be good at it. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. We know, yes, that doesn't leave a whole lot for the imagination. But we believe in the angry faithful. We know that your creativity and ingenuity match no other and is unrivaled throughout the course of human history. So later on, folks.